Hello friends, welcome to my kitchen again. But this time it looks a little different. I painted that wall because I've been working for a while on redoing our dining room area. It is a small house, as I mentioned in other videos before, but I still want it to look a little bit elegant and pretty, so I've been working slowly towards that. I made the curtain rods, I put new curtains, we built the shelves, we put this counter in, so we've done quite a bit. And the latest thing that we did is that we came up with some dining room chairs idea. I actually looked on Pinterest for a lot of inspiration, and I'm gonna put it right here or right here, I don't know which one, but I'll show you what my inspiration was. And so these are the chairs. As you can see, they turned out great. So I'm gonna show you how I painted these $5 chairs and turned them into this cute, really nice looking set that I have now. So I know the fact that they're purple is probably off-putting for some people, so these are probably gonna go in my Etsy shop, just to reach more people that want something funky. But they are so well made. Like, look at the wood, there's no wobble, no damage at all. Like, the upholstery seems like it's probably been redone, or maybe it's the original, but it's in really good shape. I found them at my local thrift store, so if you're watching this and you got rid of these chairs, thank you, because I love them. And so this one has a little bit of a crack right here, but it's nothing crazy. Like, it's still really tight, it's not going to affect it at all. I might put some glue in there, but it'll be fine. But yeah, they're super sturdy. Look how pretty they are. They just need a good sanding, stripping, restaining, whatever, but aren't they so cool? First things first, let me show you where we're going to start. And the main thing that we have going on here is obviously the color, but also that it is really old, so the finish is really dried out and crusted and worn out. So that's what we're going to work on first. So hopefully you guys can see all of this crustiness is what I want to get rid of with the sanding. I really just want it to look more natural without the finish. So I'm going to get rid of all of this crustiness and all of that stuff. Before you ask, I did try to take the backing off of this chair, but it was glued in there, so it ended up just having to stay, and it was a pain in the butt to work around it because I didn't want to damage it with the sander, but I also couldn't get into the crevices as easily as I wished, so it was a pain in the butt. I also tried to do stripper on here to remove all of the old finish, but I even tried this new, more natural stripper that is really expensive. It's called Blue Bear. It's a soy stripper, and it did not work at all. And also my regular quick stripper that I used did not work. I think it's because it's so old, it was crusted in there. So there was a ton of sanding. Remember, there's 4 chairs, so I switched between my orbital sander, my corner sander, and then hand sanding. It was a lot, and I ended up buying these pads from Amazon. It's like a cushiony pad that you attach to your orbital sander, and it helps contour on round surfaces, so it did help quite a bit. Worn out in some of the areas, like where people put their hands, but then it looks like that in some areas. We're just going to get rid of all that, and once we're done sanding it, it will look like this, and then we'll go ahead and oil it up. So before oiling it up, I'm gonna get rid of all this dust, sawdust, with some paint thinner. And the reason I like using paint thinner is because it will evaporate fairly quickly, and it also, when you wet it, it kind of gives you an idea of what it's gonna look like. I mean, you can wet it with water just fine. I ended up sanding a little bit more on this one. If you notice those dark spots on the back, I wanted to get all of that off. So, but I did sand a little bit more, and then I went in with white wax first and then the oil. You can do either way. The white wax that I was using was water-based, so I went with that one first just to see if I could get that aged, weathered look. Either way will work. And so for this, I ended up using Dixie Belle hemp oil, and the reason why is because it will harden, it will protect the wood, but also I wanted the oil to soak into the wood because, again, this is really old and it's really dry. So the wood was really dry and it soaked it all up almost immediately. So now I'm gonna do a second round. Let's just get some more oil in here so we can move on. Okay, so a few hours later you can really see how dry the wood was because it absorbed all of the oil. So I'm gonna do another round. Hopefully I only have to do one more round, we'll see. Okay, after a few coats and it drying a couple nights, I went ahead and cleaned the cushions to start the fun part, what you guys are here for, to see if you can actually paint some vinyl. So I cleaned it with TSP, cleaned it really well because again it had oil and you need to make sure it actually sticks. You can't have oil if you want the paint to stick, right? We know that, right? Yeah. For this part, I am using a product from Dixie Belle called Slick Stick, and it really is what the name says. It is so that it's a primer that will stick to any slick surfaces like glass, plastic, vinyl. And so I decided to try it, and I know it's supposed to work, but I have actually never tried it before, so we're gonna find out if it works. Since I couldn't remove the backing, I grabbed a flat brush to get into the edges as best as I could, and this is precisely the reason why I oiled the wood first, in case I did get onto the wood, which I did multiple times, but it would make it easier for me to clean if I did get on the wood. And then I am dipping this brush in water whenever I make a mistake. You know how when you get your nails done, the nail lady will dip it in acetone to clean up your edges on your nails? So the same concept. And if you're a guy, just dip another clean brush into water and remove the paint while it's really wet off of the wood with that wet water brush. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, so I did first coat on the back of the chairs, and now I'm gonna do the second coat. Per the instructions, it says that you need to apply one coat on the entire surface, let it dry for 2 to 3 hours, and then recoat and let it dry overnight. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna recoat for the base, and then I'm gonna let it dry overnight, and hopefully I can paint them tomorrow, even though tomorrow's Thanksgiving and I'm not gonna be able to use them for Thanksgiving. Oh well. Okay, first coat of paint, and yes, if you're wondering, I totally pushed into the cushions to see if the primer was holding on, and it is. So I went ahead and started painting. I am using a color called Buttercream, also by Dixie Belle Paint. It is an off-white, a soft, creamy, antique white, more natural, so it's not so stark as the primer is. I hope you can see the contrast. You probably can't, but yeah, it's a pretty color, and I'm going in with the first coat. I'm starting by cutting in first, and then I'll move on to the easier parts, which are the main surface. Once you're done with the tedious cutting in, this part feels so satisfying because it actually feels like you're making progress. Oh look, you can actually see the difference in the color contrast with the buttercream versus the primer that is super white. And also notice the brush that I'm using. I am using one of my favorite ones, and this is Paint Pixie's Dusty brush. It's a natural bristle brush, and the reason why I went with this is A, it covers a lot of surface, it's flat, it's easy to hold, it's perfect for the job, but also because it is natural bristle, it tends to leave a little bit more texture. Sometimes you don't want that, sometimes you do. In this case, I did. I was actually brushing in one direction with this brush on purpose. On the next coat, I'm going to brush the opposite direction and kind of create some texture linen look. Honestly, you can't really see this all that much unless you look really close, which nobody does when they're sitting on a chair. So if you don't have this brush, you can totally skip it, but it made me happy and I liked it. Hey friends, Welcome to another kitchen video. You guys know that this is the only place I actually have a window where I get natural light in so I can film better. Also, I am totally wearing the same outfit I was wearing for my Christmas video because you know what, I only wore it for filming and it's not good for the environment that you're constantly washing clothes, okay? Especially if they're not dirty. So take off your judgy pants. We're not gonna wear those here. But anyway, today I am going to finally seal my cushions and I am a little worried, I must admit. I think I did everything right. I actually was very patient, which is very unlike me. I was very patient with them. I followed instructions. So for the slick stick, which is the primer that helps things adhere to things that are slick, as it says in the name, they stick to slick things. I'm so good with words. But what I'm trying to say is I followed the directions. It said that on the first coat you wait a few hours, then apply the second coat, and then you wait overnight. So I waited overnight for all of my cushions. And then I applied my first coat of chalk paint. And then I waited a couple hours for that. And then I waited overnight for the second coat to dry. So that's where we are right now. Biggie actually, I'm sure it's Biggie. It never is Sterling. But Biggie actually sat on my cushions and I have to clean that before I move on to the next step, which is to use gator hide. And again, this one comes in plastic. I wish it didn't. Here we are. I think I've talked about this before. But anyway, this product is called Gator Hide and it is a water repellent protective top coat. So it's a tougher coat, more durable than the standard satin coat that I use. So I'm gonna use this and I'm going to use it with a sponge for the first time ever. I've actually never used the sponge, but this is the applicator that they recommend to use with it. So I want to try it out, and then if not, I'm just gonna switch to my regular brush that I like to use. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, I'm gonna use this scrap wood to raise it up so that I can get to the edges. All right, pour some gator hide into a small disposable bowl. Gently dip the flat area of a dry blue sponge applicator into gator hide, lightly coating. Gently wipe the sponge over the surface. 2 to 3 thin coats are all that is needed, following a 2 hours dry time between each coat. All right, let's go. So, pouring to dip it in there. And if you've never done something like this, I have to recommend, even though this is my first time applying with a sponge, I have to recommend that you don't overwork the product. So I've done a couple passes through and I did put some pressure into it because I wanted to really sink into the crevices of the paint, especially because I had some brush strokes in there. But this is, wow, I'm very impressed so far. Oh my god, you guys, I am actually very surprised at how well this sponge worked. I don't know what I was expecting. It's not a fancy sponge, but it worked really great. I think a big part of it is the fact that it soaks in all of the liquid, so all of the top coat, and as you apply pressure, you release as much or as little as you want to release without dripping everywhere. So I think the instructions are right. I was able to apply super super thin coats with it and they turned out amazing. I could not believe, so I definitely recommend it. It is not a gimmick. So hopefully you guys can see the reflection. It is fully coated and I was able to apply a really thin coat, I think, so this is great. Okay, so just like we did before, I'm going to use a little detail brush to get in the corners so that I don't get the top coat all over the wood, since that's not the look we want. I have to be honest, this is much easier because it's clear. So if I am getting it on the wood, I actually can't really tell. So it's not gonna bother me and therefore I don't care. Again, I'm trying to be as careful as possible though, but I'm just saying, let's be real here. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see some of the sheen on this. This is 2 coats and I let it dry overnight, mainly because I ran out of time, not because I wanted to. Otherwise I probably would have done it within 2 hours like the instructions say, but like I said, I ran out of time. So today we're gonna do the 3rd coat and hopefully it turns out great. And this will be the last coat we're gonna do. So far it's been looking incredible, actually. I have to admit, I wasn't sure what to expect, simply because, you know, it is painted vinyl, it's everything, all of my common sense is telling me that it's not going to work. However, there have been some brave people that have attempted this before me, so I kind of consulted on one of the groups for people who use the same paint that I use, and so far, like I said, it looks very, very promising. And of course, this dining room would not be complete if I didn't have a table to match. So I'll show you the inspiration for the table as well, and let us just put one together real quick. Let me show you some close-ups and so that you can see how they turned out. I think they turned out amazing, and so hopefully you guys do something similar. And if you were curious like I was on whether or not you could paint vinyl, faux leather, any of that stuff, or any kind of plastic material, I hope that this cleared your questions, because it definitely cleared mine. I had read multiple places that you can, but one of the things that I really wanted to test out is how well it would hold up, especially on something that you actually use, because it's different when you paint something that is decor, nobody's touching it, nobody's moving it, it doesn't matter if it holds up well or not. But on chairs, we sat here for my birthday and had dinner together, and we've sat here a couple other times, and so far it's holding up great. No chips, no peeling, no nothing. I think it turned out perfect, and I know it's not exactly how the inspiration pictures looked, but they are fairly close for what, $20 and some paint. I guess the total would be like $50 more, like, definitely worth it. Anything laying around that you wanted to paint and you didn't know if it was gonna work out, hopefully I clear all of that out for you and you should try it. I'm working on our house on a budget, and so it is what it is. If I had the money to buy some sustainably made, custom made chairs, I probably would, but this is gonna work for now, and we will keep working on our house as we go along. This is a never-ending project. I'm constantly updating and fixing things, and if you want to see my day-to-day and what I work on and other small DIYs, don't forget to follow us on Instagram and all the social media, and don't forget to subscribe for more content, and I will see you next time. Okay, love you, goodbye.
Okay, love you, goodbye.
Was that you living in someone else's dreams?